Hi, everybody. I'm so excited for this episode of the Gamut Network. Joining us today, we have Kendra Gottsleben, who has been actually working with Runway of Dreams and now is also a part of the Gamut for probably about 5 years now. And I'm so honored to say that she has also become a friend. So, Kendra, can you tell our listeners, our audience, a little bit about your story?
So, I have a rare medical condition called mucopolysaccharidosis type 6, which the acronym is MPS type 6. And so I was diagnosed at 4, and ever since then, I've kind of just gone about life with making lemonade and just trucking on and not trying to let things, with a rare disease affect every aspect of my life.
And tell us a little bit of how the disease affects you. Tell us, because our viewers see you sitting down, they don't know how tall you are, and how that does affect everyday tasks such as dressing yourself.
So my condition affects the connective tissue, heart, eyes, and other vital organs. And so not all of us, but it also affects the size. So there are people that are taller, but I'm only about 3 feet tall. So especially within the fashion world, I shop where the little kiddos shop. So that's kind of a fun, interesting challenge to dress age appropriate, but also due to the connective tissue for my condition affecting my connective tissue, then it's stiff. So I like elastic because pulling up it can be challenging, in buttons and all those things that many individuals with disabilities sometimes have with dressing are been a constant 35 years of fun, I would say.
Well, I'm sure it hasn't always been fun. And certainly, you have, because I've seen you dress and I see what you come out with. So I know that you have cracked the code as best you can with dressing. But aside of that, you also have an amazing job out in South Dakota that maybe could tell us a little bit about what you do outside of helping to run the social media of Runway Dreams.
My passion in life and what made me reach out when I had first seen, Runway of Dreams is always helping others. And so I was fortunate that after I graduated from college that I started working at a nonprofit here in South Dakota called the Center for Disabilities. And I'm the marketing communication specialist there. And we're within the Stanford School of Medicine. So for me, my life has always kind of been two worlds. I grew up with parents that were in the education field. And then I grew up in the world of medicine and hospitals and all that stuff that goes with it, nurses and doctors. So working within the med school is almost like a perfect fit because it's the education and the medical field together. So I get amazing opportunities. Since my condition is so rare, there's probably about 100 in the United States, that I get the opportunity to speak to med students regarding disability etiquette and just talking about, we're people first, we're not the disease, or we're not the condition, or we have things outside of our disease that we like to do, trying to get that personal aspect. And so with my job, I sit by the computer, behind the computer, and I'm doing social media, I'm doing our newsletters and sending out the information to parents, to individuals with disabilities, to professionals, paraprofessionals, educators. Our audience is really big. So sometimes, trying to define which resources go where is challenging, but it's also something that I mostly enjoy because knowledge is power.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm just going to have a little commercial break here that for anybody that's new to the Gamut Network or new to everything that we're building, Runway of Dreams is our nonprofit partner. To find out more information about Runway of Dreams, go to runwaydreams.org, and you'll see a lot of the amazing work that Kendra has done from our social media. So let's go back a second, Kendra, because I think something that the audience is really responding to is, let's say there's an 8-year-old Kendra out there that is just starting in life and starting in a world that is very different than probably when you were 8 years old. What would you say to that little boy or little girl that is embarking on their life and looking at you and seeing how accomplished you are and what you've done with your life? And I haven't even gotten to one of the most exciting parts of Kendra's world yet, but what would you say to that little boy or girl?
For me, as I grew up, acknowledging my disability and my strengths and weaknesses has been key. So what I would probably tell any little kid is there are going to be challenges in life, but that doesn't mean you can't accomplish what you want. You may have to tweak it a little. One example I have told is I've always liked dressing as little kids, and my grandma sewed, and she made my clothes, so I always loved fashion. My family loved to shop. But I never went to fashion school because I'm in the Midwest. I can't really draw, and I can't do any of those things, but I designed my prom dresses, and my grandma made it happen. So I've always wanted to be a part of that world. Well, I am now, but I'm in it in a different scheme of it. And that's the thing, is what I want people to realize is there's not a black and white. You can still pursue some of those things that you like doing, but it might not be how you first envisioned it.
I love that. Yes, it definitely does. And that actually fits into a previous guest who had an accident and was, his world changed in a minute, and he is now in a wheelchair, and he was a dancer prior to that. And so now, he isn't dancing the way he did, but he's choreographing, which is something that, previously he never envisioned himself doing, but life had a different plan, and he took his passion and his love and went in a different route. And I think that's exactly what you are talking about. And bridging off of talking to, a younger version out there, you are also an author that I'm excited to have you read a little bit from your book, Kendra's Lemonade, which is available on Amazon. So Kendra, can you tell us a little bit about the book, and let's hear some excerpts.
Well, what's been really exciting, this is my first kids book, and I just recently did another one, but I'm wanting to read from this one because part of, with what we're going through and challenges and the whole coronavirus is kind of pertinent in the challenges that we are pertaining to. But so my book, Kendra's Lemonade, is, of course, Kendra, the character, obviously it's me, but it's talking about kind of the things that you may have challenges with. So it pretty much pertains to my life when I was a little kid. So I take it through the school. I show how short I am compared to the height of a classmate. So it's just kind of describing a little bit in a kid format what MPS is, but then how you can still have fun with your classmates. So, okay, we'll see. I've never really done the whole reading book thing, so we'll try this.
Great.
And I'll try to show the pictures, but the first, where I wanted to read is first pages. My parents told me that everyone has some type of challenge to overcome. Some challenges are small, but others can be really big. Some of us may face more challenges than others, but we all have something that we can work on to make better. What would you like to make better?
A lot of things.
So I like this image because the word challenge is really big, but then the little character is small.
Love that.
And then to follow it, it says, I've learned that each challenge teaches me more about myself. Experiences can affect us in both good and bad ways. Hopefully, we learn from the bad ones, even if they're challenging. Have you ever had a bad experience? What would you do when you have a bad experience? I choose to have a positive attitude. And then
I can't think of better words, especially with what's happening in the world. So I think this is going to resonate very much with a lot of people.
yeah, and that's the other thing that when I talk to kids or even young adults that have disabilities like 16 and 17 is I try to help them realize we're not the only ones that have challenges. Just because we have a disability or a rare disease doesn't mean that someone sitting next to you doesn't have family obstacles or work obstacles or, invisible obstacles like invisible disabilities. So it's just trying to put that whole idea of nobody in this world gets out scot-free.
Exactly. And it's so well said, Kendra. And I think that, we all could look at somebody else and say, wow, they have their struggles, I have my struggles, and there is nobody that's going to escape this, as you just said so beautifully. So I'm again so grateful that you're able to join us in the show. But one question that I always like my guests to talk about at the end of each interview is I have my vision board over here that I show often with things that I know that I'm going to manifest in my life. Who or what would be on your vision board?
That's a good question. For me, continuing writing more books so that I can help little kids understand that representation matters and so they can see themselves in a book. But something that would be so unbelievable would be, it would be fun to see myself in a commercial or something.
Why not?
Because the other thing is what I feel like as a society, through the work that I've seen that you guys are doing and stuff, is we're getting there. We're pushing there. And the normalizing is possible. And so as mainstream media sees the impact, the greater it's going to be. And I think that's one of the most passionate things that keeps me going about this is just seeing how fulfilling and the confidence level it is. I mean, I'm personally trying to do more here in South Dakota with trying to get more visibility with commercials or even just trying to get that awareness out there that hey, if you're doing this, maybe think about having someone with a disability. Exactly. And some of it is just people aren't aware. If it's not like they're not wanting to do it. They're just somebody posed the idea. Kind of like you did it.
And first of all, now I have something to add to my board, and that's getting you on a commercial. But that is exactly what we're trying to do at Gamut Management, is really rebrand the way people with disabilities show up in pop culture. And having exposure to people like you through the Gamut Network is going to help us achieve that goal. So certainly, audience, go to gamutmanagement.com, join us, become a client. Let's see what your vision board is all about. And if you would like to be on the Gamut Network, please send us an email at talent@gamutmanagement.com and tell us why you'd be a great guest. But Kendra, if anybody has extra questions for you or really wants to talk to you about something a little bit more personal in your journey, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I have a website, and it's just Kendra Gottsleben.com.
Can you spell that for everybody?
So it's Kendra, Kendra, and then my last name, Gottsleben. And that's where I have all my social media, and I have asking questions. You can email me and stuff like that. So.
And to find Kendra's Lemonade and your other book, which is titled?
So my other kid's book is called Kendra's Perfect Dance Routine. That's also on Amazon. And then my first book that is not a kid's book, it's called Live, Laugh, Lemonade, A Journey of Choosing to Beat the Odds, is also on Amazon.
Unbelievable. Love being with you, Kendra. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Please email us at talent@gamutmanagement.com and tell us a little bit about why you would be a great guest on our show.